Check one, two, three. Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now let's bring it back up to 5 where it was. Check, check, 1, 2. There you go. Check, check, 1, 2. Melanie, can you sit in the candidate chair closest to you, please? Melanie, can you switch to the other candidate chair, please? Beautiful. For those of you that have just arrived, feel free to scan the QR code near one of the entrances, and that will get you onto our live polling software and live Q&A. Welcome to the Civil Dialogue Focus on Democracy debates. My name is Josh Carter. I'm going to start the debates tonight with a story to get us all in the right mindset. Please silence your cell phone and yourselves so you can take part in what happens next. Once upon a time, there was a group of people who lived their entire lives inside a dark cave. They were prisoners, bound by chains, and behind them a fire burned, casting shadows on the cave wall. These shadows were the only reality they knew. One day, a curious individual managed to break free from their chains and ventured outside the cave. At first, the sunlight blinded them, but as their eyes adjusted, they saw a whole new world filled with vibrant colors and diverse perspectives. They realized the shadows they had believed to be real were mere illusions. Excited by this newfound knowledge, the freed individual returned to the cave to share their discovery with the others. However, upon hearing about the outside world, the chained individuals became angry and defensive. They refused to believe there could be anything beyond the shadows they had always known. Despite their frustration, the freed individual persisted in trying to explain the truth. They encouraged the others to question their beliefs and engage in open-minded discussions. Slowly but surely, some of the chained individuals began to understand and accept the existence of a broader reality. This allegory from Plato highlights the importance of having civil conversations about politics. Civil dialogue, helping us bridge the gap between different ideologies, foster empathy, respect, and cooperation. The key to having civil conversations about politics is to approach them with an open mind, respect for others, and a willingness to challenge our own beliefs. Welcome to the Focus on Democracy candidate debates powered by Civil Dialogue Project and the Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce. My name is Josh Carter from Carter Venture Solutions. I'll be your host this evening. I love how you all just spread out. Really, you don't want to sit too close to each other. That's very interesting. Maybe we'll get you guys closer as the evening goes on. Let's start with the rules of tonight's event. Okay. Please, no signs or disruptive behavior during the event. Any heckling or disruption may result in removal from the auditorium. Please find the QR code for our online poll and participate in the live Q&A. Has everyone found the QR code for the live poll and Q&A? Raise your hand if the answer is no. Okay, it's right there on this music stand. You can also go to our website, civilfocuslv.com. Again, the website is civilfocuslv.com. And under the live tab is a link to the poll. This is how you're going to participate with us this evening. We do also have a wild card round, which we'll be picking one of the questions out of the Q&A for that wild card round. So definitely get on there. We're also streaming live online at civilfocuslv.com/live. We'll put a recording of this session there too when complete. If you are streaming us online, you can participate in the poll directly under the video that you're watching. Please note the organizers and participants of this event do not speak for or necessarily represent the views of their private employers. Please make note of the emergency exits. They're marked by giant red exit signs. Now let's introduce our moderators. First is Melanie Green Evans, Public Relations and Marketing at LCC Head Start. Melanie Green Evans is known for a creative and pragmatic approach to solving problems. She's been coaching and facilitating open conversation for decades. Our other powerhouse moderator is Commissioner Steve Warning, former Cowlitz County Superior Court Judge and founder of the Cowlitz County Drug Court. He's also the past president of the Superior Court Judges Association and former dean of the Washington State Judicial College. Before we continue, I'd like to reiterate the importance of our live poll, which again, if you need help with, you can stop over here, we'll help you. Regarding applause, in the interest of time, we do ask that you do not clap following the responses of the participants. Otherwise, that'll cut out a lot of actual conversation time. Please note the candidates did receive all of the questions they're being asked with the exception of the wild card a week prior to this event, giving them ample time to prepare. All right, we're going to welcome to the stage now our first two candidates. Please welcome now Christopher Ortiz, incumbent candidate for Longview City Council, position 3. Christopher Ortiz was appointed to the Longview City Council in March of 22 to fill vacant position 3. He has 2 doctorates, a PhD in educational leadership and a PhD in film and television. Chris co-sponsored a safety levy for more police for the 2024 ballot, a motion to improve city communication with residents, and worked with the purchase of a new ambulance for the fire department. He serves on the Public Works Subcommittee and serves as the alternate to the Highlands Neighborhood Association. Please welcome now Eric Halverson, candidate for City Council Position 3. Eric is a devoted husband and father of 5. He serves as trustee on the board of the Longview Public Library, contributes to the Longview School District's budget and strategic plan committees, and is an active member of both the Longview Pioneer Lions Club and Longview Early Edition Rotary. He's currently employed as operations manager at Red Canoe Credit Union. I'm going to turn it over now to our moderators. Thank you.
Time is short, so we'll get right to it. I want to start with a question about the homelessness situation in this community. Okay. Oh, and I should remind everybody, 2 minutes to answer, 1 minute to reply after the other candidate answers. Thank you. So let's talk about the homeless situation in this community. Longview obviously has spent a lot of time and effort to establish Hope Village. Do you support Hope Village? Why or why not? And what else does the city need to do to address the homeless issue? So we'll start with Dr. Ortiz.
Testing, can you hear me? Okay. Interestingly, the Daily News editorial on September 23rd recently stated, in light of rulings on homelessness policy, such as Marchand versus Boise, a clear policy not only helps people dealing with homelessness, but also helps protect the city from a legal standpoint. However, the solution is not simply to keep banning campsites each time homeless campers find somewhere new. It might violate the spirit of the Ninth Court's decision, which states cities can't ban sleeping outside if people have no access to an alternative. I think the Daily News highlighted the complex legal landscape that cities, towns, and other jurisdictions are working under when addressing the issue of homelessness. The editorial also points out correctly that we cannot enforce current codes if there's no access to alternative shelters. I do not believe the city and our police have been overly compliant with the Martin versus Court decision, but have acted appropriately to follow the law and court ruling. There was also a Daily News article on Saturday, September 30th, 2023. A group of homeless people sues Portland over a new daytime camping ban. So again, we see the need for city council, city staff, and law enforcement to operate within the law to reduce legal liability while protecting law-abiding citizens. I supported and voted for Councilmember Wallen's motion for Longview to create its own homeless agency so that we could access the document recording fees from the county, and I do support continuing to fund Hope Village in order to provide our police with an ability to enforce camping laws for those who want to violate the law and do harm.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Helverson.
I do support Hope Village. We've seen some success in the last year of Hope Village, the pilot project, the Hope Village pilot project. We have a year's worth of data, and now it's time to take that year's worth of data, take our operational knowledge, take our financials, and plan on phase 2 of that pilot project. What can we improve on? What went really well? And we can use that along with collaboration from you, the county, the states, and come up with the next phase, make some changes. The emergency that was Camp Alabama has been resolved. And thank goodness we had our neighbors living in the filth like that. So I'm very thankful that that emergency is resolved. Because the emergency is resolved, we can use the proper channels in government. Just like any project with either replacing the library roof, repainting the city hall, you do a competitive bidding process, an RFP. And through collaboration with the constituents, we can create a list of our requirements and put it out and see who can do it for the best price. It's a matter of efficiency, making sure those dollars are being spent well. We can also collaborate with the document recording fees with the county. We can reopen that discussion and try to go to the county and see if they can help pay for this project. So I do support.
County, two of them have publicly stated they're opposed to Hope Village. One of them called it an abomination. So that is why we formed our own homeless task force in Longview to come up with our own 5-year plan so we could get legal access to the money that's entitled to us by state law in those document recording fees. As a superintendent and a deputy superintendent, I've gone through many RFP processes. It's a really nice, polite way of saying, let's make a bureaucratic nightmare for anybody that wants to apply. I think the Salvation Army is doing an outstanding job. I don't see a need to change our contractors. So again, RFP is a nice specious way of saying, let's make it really difficult for anyone to apply. I know when some of our council members were trying to work with County Homeless Task Force, they got very few vendors who answered or responded to the RSP, so I'm very fortunate we have the Salvation Army.
And Mr. Halverson, anything?
I just want to make it clear I'm not against the Salvation Army. I think they're doing a great job. I got to tour their facilities on Monday. I think it's just a matter of making sure these dollars are being spent wisely. We're not in an emergency anymore. We just need to make sure that those dollars are correct. And I think we can collaborate with the county. As long as we open up the dialogue and be serious with each other, what can we change? How can we make this work? There needs to be collaboration. We can't go at it alone. Thank you.
Okay, second question. Mr. Halverson, we'll start with you. What are 3 things you see the Longview City Council doing right, and what are 3 things you would suggest as improvements?
Yes, thank you. I think an example of something that went right, we just came back from the pickleball opening. Public-private partnerships. The council is doing great on public-private partnerships. J.H. Kelly donating things to Centennial-related items. So great job on the public-private partnerships. As well as this summer, we had fantastic recreational activities for families. Thanks to our sponsors. So great park staff coming up with fantastic family activities. And then finally, after years of advocacy by the Highlands neighborhood, they finally have a police station, their satellite police station, back in their neighborhood. So that is another win for the city council. Some improvements, long-term planning. The current strategic plan is titled Longview 2023 and it was written in 2006. We're in 2023 right now. We need to improve. We need to relook at that strategic plan and update it. We need a roadmap for the next 25 years. Long-term planning. Another thing, communicating and listening. We need to listen to everyone, all of our constituents, listen to the stakeholders, and make well-informed decisions. And also collaboration. I've said that before. Collaboration with the state, collaboration with our lobbyists to the state, the county, other cities in the region, as well as you, the people of Longview. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ortiz?
Yeah, I believe City Council is doing well with working on code changes. Since I was appointed to City Council, we have been working collaboratively with city staff and our many boards and commissions, such as the Planning Commission, to make necessary code revisions. For instance, we had a workshop and numerous meetings on changing the building codes based on the Planning Commission's recommendations to streamline the process for families to build accessory dwelling units. We had great discussions about the code changes and we made some important revisions. Fiscal responsibility, working in collaboration with the city manager and staff, we developed a responsible and balanced 23-24 biennium budget, to which we have been adhering, even in the face of inflation and other cost increases due to the current economy. Infrastructure, I think as a city council, we've been working diligently, especially with our state legislators on our legislative priorities, especially for capital projects, library renovations, playground improvements at Vandercook, new street lighting in the Highlands, the Mint Valley Golf Course irrigation project, the Public Works road improvement projects are examples of how we are working to identify and prioritize infrastructure. I believe we can improve in the following: communication. In June 2022, I did sponsor a resolution sponsored by Councilmember Boudreau that we needed to communicate better and to have a communications audit. Public noticing, I do believe we should adhere to a publicly noticed agenda and not make any changes to it. Our current rules allow us to bring a motion up as long as we get a second. You can have a discussion and a vote, even if it's not in the official agenda. So I do believe that would be one important change to increase accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Halverson, 1 minute response.
The Longview budget, we're in record revenue years, and in order to balance the 2023-2024 biennial budget, the Longview City Council is dipping down into our reserves, into our emergency fund. The ending fund balance is being reduced. That's poor financial management. Thank you.
Dr. Ortiz?
So I disagree with Mr. Halverson. He obviously doesn't understand how public budgeting works. And so you dip into your ending fund balance, and as revenues come in, because we are constantly getting revenues in from state grants and other sources, then the end balance grows. And I think we did an amazing job during the last budget cycle. We worked closely with City Manager Swanson to make sure that we weren't overspending, that we would have a healthy end fund balance at the end of the fiscal year, and we are on trajectory to do that. So again, I think it's just a misunderstanding, since Mr. Halverson doesn't work in public agencies. I've done my career in school districts and handled $1 million budgets, $50 million budgets. So I think we're doing an excellent job of managing the budget with really not as much revenue as we'd like.
Thank you.
The Longview Police Department has made pretty clear their desire for more officers and their need for more officers. There has been discussion of a potential public safety levy for the ballot in 2024. Do you support such a levy? Why or why not? And how are we going to pay for more officers if that's what's going to happen? Dr. Ortiz?
Well, so on July 11, 2022, a resolution was presented to City Council for approval. Request resolution creating a public safety and law enforcement tax for voter approval on the November 2023 general ballot. I worked with Councilmember Boudreau on this. I was the co-sponsor, so obviously I support our law enforcement and a levy to allow us to increase staff. City Council decided so that the voters would have more time to consider it, that we would put it on the ballot in November 2024. I know some people wanted it sooner, but I think the fact we had the discussion is going to be on the ballot is important. And so we do need to increase police staff, but we also know with inflation and current revenue streams, we cannot add positions unless we get more revenue. And so a levy would be really important in order to achieve that. I think we've taken many steps in City Council to improve, to support first responders, the new ambulance for the fire department, restroom upgrades to fire station number 82, to provide facilities for female firefighters, the new police station at R.G. Anderson, body cams and other technology requested by the police department to improve response and efficiency. About 20% of police calls involve mental or substance abuse issues, so we also approve funding to behavioral health specialists to work with the police, and that has brought our number of specialists to 6. And again, we have voted to support police through code changes. Our recent code changes, for instance, on camping, to clarify the rules around camping, has supported police in being able to enforce.
Thank you. Mr. Halverson.
As a former firefighter EMT, I believe we need to fully fund our public safety officers, the fire, the police. I am in support of the public safety levy, and some things I would have done differently if I was the co-sponsor. I would have actually talked to the chief. I would have fully vetted the idea and had everything ready to go before bringing it to the public. It was too hastily done. While I'm generally opposed to increasing taxes, I believe that the citizens should have the right to weigh in on this. They should be able to tell us, yes, we do want this sales tax to support our police. So, in closing, yes, I support our firefighters, I support our police officers, and I believe that we should fully fund those departments.
Thank you. And Dr. Ortiz, anything you wish to respond to?
Yes, I think Mr. Halverson needs to direct his criticisms to Councilmember Boudreau, who is the main sponsor of that resolution. I was the co-sponsor. I assisted him with some of the wording, but he is the one that presented the resolution to the City Council. And I do support the levy, and we had the discussion. The positive is it will be on the ballot in November 2024.
And Mr. Halverson?
Yes, I met with Chief Huda today, and yes, not one council member approached him prior to this discussion. So yes, I would come fully prepared, even if I was the co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Halverson, what are your priorities for the city budget, and what would be your innovative approaches for securing funding for these initiatives?
The city has a $140 million annual operating budget, and that's your dollars coming to pay for things that matter to you. I'm not a flashy person. I know times are tough. I don't have plans for water parks or swimming pools or flashy amenities. I want to go back to the basics. My budget priorities are the basics. Our roads, our public safety, our water, our sewer. Those are the things I am focused on. And as we look through the budget, we will look line by line to make sure we can afford and cover those basics. And then we'll add on the fun, the nice to haves, the flashy things. Those are my budget priorities. Thank you.
Dr. Ortiz.
Well, I'm very proud of the collaborative process City Council went through to draft and then adopt the 23-24 fiscal biennium budget, which I voted to approve at our City Council meeting of December 8th, 2022. Before the meeting, we held numerous workshops to discuss the draft budget, had presentations from departments, and we also had input from the public. So a budget is just not my priorities, it's the collective priorities of my colleagues on City Council and our stakeholders. And we also established priorities as part of our strategic planning process. Those are online on the website if you look at what some of those are. Improve streets and roads, provide sustainable water, quality and infrastructure, continue effective financial management, enhance public safety and emergency response, among others. As a member of the public, as my number one priority shared by my colleagues is to ensure public safety, meaning police and emergency response, the fire department are funded at the current staffing levels and augmented when possible. Citizens want fire and police to respond when called. So for example, we were able to fund purchase of a new fire department ambulance based on recommendation of the fire chief and listening to constituents who wanted emergency medical transport. As a member of the Public Works Subcommittee, I'm aware of our need to budget for infrastructure. I believe in keeping taxes and rates under control, but current inflation rates affect city operations just like they do private citizens and businesses. So we must be fiscally prudent, seek out new revenue streams, and make increases where necessary to keep up for inflation so we have clean water and sewers especially and roads.
Thank you.
No comment.
No comment. Thank you.
Longview is known for, is unique for its parks. And I think the number for the deferred maintenance currently is about $15 million. And we have a park maintenance levy on this coming ballot. Dr. Ortiz, what's your position on that levy? Why? How do you propose to address our parks problem?
So I do believe that we do need to support the Parks Levy. We do have a lot of deferred maintenance. I think the Parks and Recreation Department's done an excellent job of seeking out grant funding, state capital project funding, but parks are a real integral part of the quality of life here in Longview. And I recall my first visit to Longview, I was just awestruck by how beautiful Lake Sacagawea Park is. That was actually part of the reasons I moved to Longview. So I do think the parks are real important. I know coming home from St. Stephen's Church on Sundays, Vandercook Park is packed with families, so I definitely support the levy for parks.
Thank you. Mr. Halverson?
Yes, just like with every decision that I'm going to make, I commit to listening to the voters. And in this past year that I've been campaigning for this position, I've knocked on hundreds of doors, and I hear a common theme. Our parks are in disrepair, bathrooms are broken, out of service, and there's just a general lack of maintenance happening on our parks. So I'm super appreciative of the city staff, Parks Department, and the Parks Board for coming up with such a creative solution to start hammering away at some of these deferred maintenances. If passed, I would support only using this funding mechanism to catch up on deferred maintenance. And once that deferred maintenance is caught up on, I would support removing this tax off your property taxes. I do have some concerns, however. With this dedicated funding source created by the Parks Metropolitan District, this can only be used for parks-related things. And the parks operation currently happens in the general fund. And I'm concerned without proper financial management, the general fund could be reduced to pay for other things like the library, police, fire, all these other competing interests in the general fund. I believe that without proper management, they could reduce the general fund and just say, hey, you got to maintain your parks with this dedicated funding source, which is really not what it's intended for. It's intended for the deferred maintenance. And another concern I have is we recently seen it in the Transportation Benefit District tax. It raised from 20 to 40 because they've already bonded out all the money that was coming in from those $20 car tabs, so they had to go back and increase the rate. I'm concerned that without proper financial management, the same thing could happen with the Parks Metropolitan District. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to have to forego the response on this one so we can get to a question from, it's been crowdsourced.
Yes, we have our wild card question. We will start with Dr. Ortiz. Explain your charitable contributions, service work, or volunteer work in the city. And I would like to add that this question is coming from Steve.
So I'm an active member and tither at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church here in Longview. So my church community is a really important part of my life, so that's the main activity. I also have two spaces at the Longview Community Gardens, so I feel bonding with my fellow residents and gardeners is a really important way to also help the environment, so that's another activity I'm engaged in. We also give to Lower Caps fundraising events and other charities. My husband actually handles all of that, but I do know he writes lots of checks. And so those are some of the ways that and I'm on city council. That's quite a lot of time we spend at meetings every month. And I also attend other meetings related to city council business. So I think that is demonstration of my civic engagement and my love of Longview. It's such a wonderful, beautiful city. So very happy to and proud to be on city council.
Thank you. Mr. Halverson.
This might sound corny, but service is my entire life. As a former firefighter EMT at Kelso Fire and Rescue, I helped the community in Cowlitz County in that way. I'm currently serving you on the Longview Library Board of Trustees, weighing in on policy decisions related to library operations. I serve you on the Longview School District's budget and strategic plan committees, providing input on budget decisions at the schools. I'm an active member of the Pioneer Lions Club in Longview, and as well as the Longview Early Edition Rotary, where service is everything we do, whether that be at raising money for scholarships, the kids fish in, and providing food at the lake, just to give that money back. As well, at my church, I'm a youth ministry leader, youth group leader, and those kids have taught me how to empower others, and that's something I'm really excited to bring to the council. And in closing, I'm invested in this community. Thank you.
Thank you both for your valuable input. We appreciate you coming and sharing your wealth of knowledge and expertise with us.
Where's Josh? I think we just about.
All right. You can clap for them. Go ahead. Yeah. All right. Well, please welcome up now the next set of candidates. First up is Keenan Harvey, incumbent candidate for Kelso City Council, position 5. Keenan is the vice president of Kelso Rotary, serves on the board of the Cowlitz Economic Development Council. He also is on the board of the Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce. Last year, Keenan was voted Community Leader of the Year and received the Rotarian in Action Award from his own club. Employed as a commercial insurance specialist with Alliant Insurance. Now please welcome Garrett Colquitt, candidate for City Council, position 5. Garrett is passionate about Kelso and its people. He hopes to inspire change and put much needed plans into action to make our community thrive. Garrett is employed as a mortgage broker.
Mr. Harvey, as we know, Kelso's downtown area is struggling, and revitalizing the area is a priority for many residents. Please outline your plan to fuel Kelso's downtown development and share with us some concrete details about the initiatives you would implement to address the issue.
I just hope my opponent used ChatGPT just like I did. I'm just kidding. So our downtown revitalization efforts really started a few weeks ago when Kelso brought in a Longview citizen to discuss the Main Street Designation Program. The Main Street Designation Program, or programs like that, are going to be imperative to revitalizing our downtown. So I'm going to continue supporting the Kelso Business and Community Association and the Community in Bloom program, but I also want to focus on branding and districting in the city of Kelso. So the thriving communities around the Pacific Northwest that we know of are the city of Vancouver, where they have the waterfront district, and so that creates attractability to one specific area. I want to do something like that where we create a district or a brand, or you see the Old Mill District in the city of Bend, where yes, it was an old mill, but now it's turned into a shopping center. So we have areas of Kelso that we've dumped, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into, like the West Main Realignment Project, but we don't use creative enough zoning to allow business growth and development. So I want to do that for our downtown corridor and our West Main corridor. Recently, I've been working on a downtown Kelso public night market. That's going to be in conjunction with the Kelso Business and Community Association. In my vision, it's going to have vendors lining both streets, live music, beer gardens, which I will happily attend, and also thanks Brian, some live music and just overall festivities to promote our downtown, our beautiful downtown Kelso.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Colquitt.
So first and foremost, our local businesses need help attracting new customers and sustaining the customers they already have. Common thing I've heard from our local businesses downtown right now is we need to focus on some basics. First, we need signage to show that, hey, there is a downtown here. It's not just straight over the bridge into West Longview. We have some great shops and restaurants right on Allen Street in South Pacific. I too am very excited for the America in Bloom program to come to Kelso. It's been awesome and inspiring to see Castle Rock grow. Downtown is thriving, and I would love to emulate that for our downtowners in Kelso. Other basic ideas I have to help our city out with the beautification, in addition to signs. I really hope we can keep our downtown clean. As it sits right now, a lot of volunteers and businesses do a great job of keeping up on the bark dust, doing landscaping, and I'd love our city to help them and do more, and I'll advocate for that. And I'm hoping too, just to keep on to the topic of beautification for downtown, is to streamline our website. Kelso's website is a few years old, and there's still some dead links on the page saying coming soon. I would like that, knowing that websites are generally the first thing out-of-towners will look at, is to update our website, show off what we have, really play our assets up, and then also have a new calendar for local events on their library, other local events, just to show that we do have a thriving community and get more people involved. And just like my opponent, I would be at that beer garden as well. I agree with that. We need more. We have a lot of local artists, a lot of local craftspeople. We have musicians. Let's get them downtown. I'd love to see a pedestrianized festival so people can come down and have a good time in South Kelso.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, Kelso has seen an increase in street begging and homelessness. Please outline your strategy for addressing these important challenges.
Absolutely. So I might actually need to read my note card for this whole thing because it does get a little bit technical. In July, I was a second signature to allow our city attorney to review our panhandling ordinance. We all see the consistent street beggars on the corners. Our city attorney actually found out that the City of Kelso code as written is as strict as the law legally allows. So in 2016, the Supreme Court invalidated Lakewood's ordinance in the Lakewood versus Willis decision. So because panhandling is free speech, the city does have the ability to limit free speech in certain areas, but based on the decision, it has to be narrowly tailored to accomplish a compelling public purpose and must be content neutral. So we would have the ability to limit free speech on one corner if it was for a specific reason, like within 25 feet of a bank, but that has to apply to all forms of speech. So when our firefighters are out there standing on the corner asking for donations, they too could face legal ramifications against our KMC if we were to make our ordinance more strict. So our current ordinance, as it's written, is actually written so on private property within 25 feet of a gas pump in a bank and somebody exiting their vehicle, if somebody does solicit money from you, you can call Kelso Police and they will respond and cite them based on our KMC. I'm not immune to the issues of begging. It happened several weeks ago where a gentleman was aggressively panhandling when I exited my vehicle at a gas station. He had been asked to leave twice. Kelso Police was notified, they responded, and they wrote him and cited him based on our KMC. I don't think that we can, or I do believe there's creative ways that we can kind of curb the panhandling though. In the city of Kelso, it requires $2,000 for a business license and they don't have one.
Thank you. Mr. Colquitt.
So I have 3 points to help Kelso with our situation with homeless and panhandlers. But first, I want to acknowledge that the cause of homelessness is systemic, and I believe the issues are a bit bigger than we'll solve at the city level of Kelso. I know that my neighbors and the fellow citizens I live with are compassionate, but also have concerns. My 3 initiatives to help the city. First, we should have a public information campaign. I think we need to direct citizens who are well-meaning and empathetic towards homeless and panhandlers, that there are better channels than handing $5 or a cheeseburger through the car window at the street corner. We need to educate our citizens to, hey, let's pause on that and let's get the folks who are panhandling connected with local services that can help them better. My second point to that is to make available a flyer for our local businesses who are dealing with the situation on the day-to-day, make it available online, just giving out point by point what organizations are available to help, phone numbers and addresses, so we can provide those to panhandlers and get them connected, not for a quick moment of help, but get them on the path to bettering their life and helping them out long term. And my third point, in regards to the public safety and folks feeling threatened and situations like that where you get approached, I wholeheartedly believe we have the best police department in the area in Kelso. We have top-notch first responders, and we have great response times. So if anyone does feel threatened or worried, call 911. The cops will be there and they'll help out. Again, panhandling is a protected free speech, and I don't want Kelso to get in a legal quagmire where we spend money on attorney fees and fighting cases that will not actually help out long term. So I'm hoping by informing the public and helping connect homeless people and panhandlers, we can solve the problem without legislation. Thanks.
Thank you. Response, Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, so part of the question did involve homelessness, and I just want to share my experience. I was on a downtown Kelso street cleanup, and it started pretty early in the morning at about 7, and there was a group full of unhoused individuals that were sleeping under the eave of a local business. The respect between the Kelso police when they came to enforce the ordinance, as written, our camping ordinance doesn't allow camping in the daytime or camping paraphernalia. They approached the group of the unhoused people. They asked them to move on. It was a mutual respect thing. The unhoused people thanked the police for doing their job. They deposited all of their trash in our trash bags. And so Mr. Colquitt is right. We have the best police department in the area. I would put them up against anybody in the state. And so that collaborative work between code enforcement and police work, I think, is going to go a long ways in the city.
Thank you. We skipped the response to the question on revitalization of the city, and I would like to ask Mr. Colquitt if he has a response.
You know, maybe instead of just having one beer garden, let's have 2 or 3. Let's get people out in the streets. Let's get people having fun. I wholeheartedly believe that the more we can do to have folks be engaged with their city and get out there and see what we have, it will snowball and continue. It'll boost people's involvement with the city and also boost revenue and help out our businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey.
I forgot what I even said, even though it was 5 minutes ago. I assume this is more awkward than being up on an altar. I'm good on my answer. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, to put it politely or delicately, the Kelso water system is failing. The 2 options up for discussion seem to be building a new one or contracting with Longview. Which do you favor, why, and how are you going to pay for it? And let's start with Mr. Harvey.
I'm going to challenge your question, actually. The city of Kelso's water system is actually not failing. We went through a full analysis and a full clean out of it. It has years left of usable life. And since then, council has taken many actions to reduce the burden of it because it is an aging system. And it's not going to produce as much as it could when it was first built. But it's not failing. It's got usable life left. And if council continues to take more actions to better our water system, I, in good faith, have an issue with switching water systems to the city of Longview. You know, I've talked to the constituents on a daily basis, and that is a major concern of theirs. Longview has seemingly poor water quality, and the constituents in Kelso do not want to be attached to their water system. So since then, we've started drilling exploratory wells to further reduce the burden on our water system. It's going to pump it into our current pipeline. It doesn't seem like the cost will be too cost prohibitive, but we also just partnered, thanks to the good work of council, with a federal lobbyist, and we continue to partner with our state lobbyists and our state delegation to find funding for the future to not continue to defer maintenance on our water system. So if we take the good steps forward, our water system has plenty of usable life left.
You want to put a number on that?
Are we betting?
Best estimate, or is there one?
Best estimate of how long our water system
How
has?
much life's left in the system?
So our city engineer at the time said we have 10, 15, maybe 17 years left of it. And so in the interim, that's when we do the good work that we're doing now, where we're drilling exploratory wells and adding a recycling water system to the spray park and reduce the burden of it, so it can extend the life of it further while we continue to fund and source a better water system.
Mr. Colkin?
I agree with my opponent. Kelso needs to have its own independent water system. And I think you were stealing my notes.
ChatGPT gave it to me.
I know, I guess we did our homework. I reached out to find out more info, being a new candidate and not being an expert on our water system. Our current rainy well, from what I was told, has about 3 to 5 more years of use. Our city has reserved funds strictly for water in our water system. And over the next 3 to 5 years, our awesome public works employees, our water staff, are looking to find a new well. They're doing the exploratory drilling, they're checking out the Cowweeman River, and as those tests get done and we still have our 3 to 5 years or however long of life left, we should be able to locate and secure a new well. I'm proud to be a part of a city with proactive staff, and I was informed as well as a concern, what happens if our Kelso water system does fail? Fortunately, we are connected with Longview if something were to happen, but ultimately, in regards to now, our budget, and for future growth, for Longview and Kelso, I think it's important that we have individual civic water systems.
Anything you care to respond to?
My rebuttal, if it is actually 3 to 5 years, I'm just going to blame it on my Kelso High School math skills. No, it was a great response. Just on, I guess, off the topic, my opponent and I have vowed to have a civil discussion. This whole candidate forum is on civility. So I hope nobody came thinking that this was going to be a fiery debate between the two of us.
We can only hope. Anything you wish to respond to, Mr. Cole? Feel free.
Gosh, no. I'm proud to be, running against somebody where we are not focused on divisiveness. I know we both got into politics to serve Kelso and make the city better. And I hope just us being up here and, not duking it out, let's keep going. We're here for the city, and that's what's important. If people do want us to duke out, I guess, put some money down. Maybe we can throw down in the parking lot or something. But yeah, I don't think that's happening. So thank you
very much.
Stepping into a city council position requires a distinctive blend of qualities and expertise. Please illuminate how your own life experiences and educational background have uniquely prepared you for this role. And we'll start with Mr. Harvey.
Thank you. So I currently hold a bachelor's degree in criminal law and justice from Central Washington University. I worked as a pseudo law enforcement officer for the Washington State Department of Corrections and Parole and Probation, where I was in charge of managing and supervising serious violent felons across the Calais County. So currently I'm a commercial insurance specialist for large to medium-sized business. Some of them are even larger than the city of Kelso in staffing and budget. So my current role gives me a really keen understanding of risk mitigation and potential litigation. So my broad history really makes me the best candidate for this position because I've worked in all facets of life. I don't see things from one lens. I use my broad experiences to pass policy in addition to listening to what the constituents want. So everything that I do in positions that I'm elected for or positions that I step up for, I actually dive right in as best as I can. So I recently completed 60 hours of training, of continued education, and I earned my Certificate of Municipal Leadership and Advanced Certificate of Municipal Leadership. None of that was required, but I wanted to be the best that I could, and so I put myself in that continued education so I can learn more for the city of Kelso. So as Josh mentioned at the beginning, I was voted Community Leader of the Year. That was from our business sector. That was from the Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce. I'm active with the Lower Columbia Contractors Association. I am on the board at the Cowlitz Economic Development Council and the Chamber of Commerce.
I'm always trying to grow and learn, and I believe my resume really speaks for itself.
Thank you. Mr. Colquitt.
So my experiences, first off with education, I spent my whole time going to schools in Kelso, so shout out and thank you to all my teachers and paraeducators and everyone else who helped me and grow. I went to Catlin, Huntington, and Kelso High, so I spent a lot of time appreciating West Kelso and North Kelso and over on the east side of I-5, walking around and spending time outside of school. For college, I went here, Lower Columbia College, and I graduated with a General Studies Associate's degree. And I just took a potpourri of classes, and my major focus was on communications, economics, and while going to school, I delivered pizzas for Bruno's. So shout out to Bruno's, go grab a pizza after this, everybody. And that gave me a big appreciation for proper roads, because I got jolted around throwing those pizzas around, delivering and dealing with potholes and all that. Career-wise, after my stint doing pizzas, I worked in financial services. I've been a credit union teller. I've been a member services rep, helping people navigate financial issues, open accounts, be a learning source for them. And after that, I've been a loan officer assistant, and I'm currently a mortgage broker. Ultimately, my career path has given me an exposure to people from all walks of life and give me a sense of compassion and care for them. I treat everyone that I work with, from the folks that I helped open up their first accounts and help them, make the move from living in their car to securing their first homes and helping them with their budget. I care for much as them as the folks that I've helped buy multi-million-dollar homes. My career has given me that exposure and taught me as a leader to help them make decisions informed and treat them with care and respect.
Response, Mr. Harvey?
I just forgot to add that it was mentioned in the beginning, but I'm Rotary Vice President for the Kelso Rotary Club, and I chair the Quacker 5000 duck race. I know, super exciting. We race ducks down a cement truck. But I also chair the Kelso Walk and Knock drop-off location, and I'm active on the Rotary Lights in the Park Committee, and I have my hands in a lot of things with Kelso Rotary, and I'll see you all at Crafted. I'll be there this weekend.
Thank you. Response?
My response, actually, when I heard you got your certification, and thanks for doing that with AWC, digging, if I was elected, there is a new candidate class to help get you up to speed on all the things that I don't know as an outsider. So if I am elected, that'll be the first thing I do and be up to speed. So.
You gotta be positive and say when I'm elected.
Oh, come on.
Thank you.
So earlier this year, I was lucky enough to act as the fill-in Kelso city attorney for about 2 weeks to cover for your existing city attorney. Attended a couple of the city council meetings, and they were lively, I guess is how I would put it. What's the city council doing right? What's it doing wrong? And I think we'll start with the guy who was there, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah. So 3 things, and this might shock you, Judge Warning. The 3 things that the council is doing right presently, we're working together, and we're passing good policy in the city. So you'll see the West Main, Catlin and West Main low-income housing project that is moving forward. We just passed a ADA accessible park. It's going to be the first one in Cowlitz County, which will replace Lads and Lassies Park, which is a park that's in disrepair. So we're working really well together. The second thing is that we're really showing cohesiveness with what is important for infrastructure for the city of Kelso. And the third thing that we're doing well is all members of council are really active. We get out there, we do the work, we are on the ground, feet on the ground, volunteering for street cleanups. We're active in Rotary, we're active in other organizations, and it's obvious that all members of council really care and love the city of Kelso.
And what's not going so well?
What's not going so well? So I actually think this question probably should have been posed a little more broad to include city staff, so Kelso as a whole, what's not going well. Right now there's a major communication disconnect between council and city staff. There's been several situations lately where I have learned more about Kelso projects by attending county commissioners meetings or talking to Longview City Council meeting, or Longview City councilors, than I hear from my own city staff. which can get a little bit frustrating, and it kind of creates a telephone game. There are also members of council that haven't sent me an email in 4 years. So our communication really is lacking amongst staff and council and amongst ourselves. The second thing that's not going so well, I don't know if there's a clear defined vision. We really need to set ourselves up for prosperity in the future, and without a vision, we can't do that. The third thing we can do better is communication with the public. There's a perception of councils across the area that we don't communicate as best as we can with them, so I proposed a community night to bring people in to speak one-on-one with us.
And Mr. Colkin.
Great. So 3 things that I can think of that council is doing well and that I've seen as a citizen. I'm really excited that there's been a major dedication to upgrading streets in town and pedestrian networks. Excited to see these safe routes for Huntington School, for Kelso High School, excuse me, and the improvements that will come with Allen Street, South Kelso Drive, and Minor Road. Second point that I think Kelso's done is a judicious and well-informed use of ARPA funds. It's been great to see the quality of life projects, Spray Park, other parks, support for our community spaces. And I'm thankful that the city has used those funds so prudently. And 3, my third thing, council has done a good job of supporting housing. Housing comes up again and again as a major need in our community. And the 3 major projects that I can see, the Catlin Affordable Housing Project in West Kelso, the apartment development that'll happen out in Walnut Street in South Kelso, and then the Retreat at River's Edge properties next to the golf course. It's 3 different flavors of housing that our community desperately needed, and I'm thankful for our council and city staff support on those projects.
What's not going so well?
I kind of mirror that as your experience. Some of the council communication, the email issue that has come up. I've heard, as a citizen in meetings that there's been missed communication, missed emails. And my suggestion for that is just to pick up the phone and call. As a mortgage broker, I have people dodging my texts, I have people dodging my emails, but if I call them, I'll get them on the phone and we can make sure that we're taking care of business. In addition to that, improve communication and messaging with the general public.
Mr. Warning, I can yield my 1 minute to him to allow him to finish.
I guess if I will finish, I would love to see a newsletter with a roundup of what the city council and city staff are up to, have that online and available for the citizens.
Thank you. So I think that gives us about time for one more, and this is something of a follow-up. The person didn't give their name, but said that a lot of people feel kind of left out in the process because they don't have a good way to communicate with the council. What can the council do better to engage the community? And I guess I'll start with Mr. Colquitt this time.
So I think the council could engage with community more just by hitting the community with all different flavors of access. I think we need to make aware that, hey, if you can't get to a council meeting, that's okay. The great staff at KLTV are broadcasting that. Again, I would love to have a newsletter that's put up as a PDF so it's easy to read for anybody on their phone or their computer, just to pull that up and stay informed. And 2, if elected as a counselor, I hope to make it approachable. I know sometimes people have a hard time reaching out to politicians because they don't feel heard. So I just want to take this moment to hear, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm open to every neighbor that I live around. Tell us what's going on, and we'll get back to you. Hope to advance that communication.
Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, I really think the issue stems from a perception issue. When we hold our meetings, they're really regimented because they're our business meetings. We follow Robert's Rules of Order to a T. They get 3 minutes. There's no rebuttal from council. There's no discussion back and forth from council. You're cut off exactly at 3 minutes, regardless of who you are. And that creates a negative perception of people attending council meetings. So recently, we've been having workshops before our second meeting of every month. They start at 4:30, but they're underutilized, they're underattended. So if we message that to the community that, hey, we are open for business, we're here to help, we're here to listen, then that can change the public perception of what's going on in the city. But another issue is presently there are only 2 members of council that use social media at all. It's myself and one other. And oftentimes we are, let's just say, cautioned about using social media so publicly because it could create an echo chamber. I do agree with the sentiment that it does create an echo chamber, but I'd take my echo chamber of thousands of people over another member of council's echo chamber of their 5 neighbors that they talk to every time. So really, we need to push out information better through multiple channels, including KLTV, as Mr. Colquitt said. Our website needs redesigned, and we need to push out correct information and invite people and create an inviting and open meeting for people to come speak.
Mr. Colquitt, anything you want to respond to?
I think it's important, you know, in regards to social media, to just be aware of the echo chambers that we may fall into. I think it's important if we are going to use social media or visit with our neighbors, we need to hit everybody and have everyone get a chance to speak. I know it's intoxicating and easy to fall into that ease where we have people online talking to us. So I just encourage all of us as citizens, council members, or city professionals to get out in any way we can and talk to everyone, not just the people that may have our backs.
And Mr. Harvey, I think you got the opportunity for the last word.
Yeah, I'd love to start a TikTok where I dance in front of people and invite a younger generation to come be engaged at our meetings. I think that's one thing we're lacking is actually getting information to the younger generation. We see the same 15, 20 people at every meeting, and really expanding that is going to be important. But Mr. Colquitt's right. Social media can be an echo chamber, but I think it's kind of a necessary evil. To get that information out, it's the largest, it receives the largest reach out of anything that we can do. So coming at it with a multiple way approach, as I said earlier, I think it's going to be important.
Thank you both so much, and I think that we're out of time on this next session.
You mean it's over finally?
You can step down.
Thank you.
Good job, Sean. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, as these candidates are leaving the stage, please take a moment and log into the poll on your phone. There's a overall polling question for the overall session there. All right, well, we have one more on the slate this evening. Yes, we just are powering through. Before we jump into that, I'd like to remind you that we have another candidate debate session happening same time, same place, but next week. Okay, everybody good on that. So we'll see you here. Also, you will be able to stream it again online at civilfocuslv.com. Please welcome now Ruth Kendall, incumbent candidate for Longview City Council Position 4. Ruth is a retired engineer with 29 years of experience at Weyerhaeuser, followed by 7 years of project management. Ruth brings a strong data analysis skills and an aptitude for infrastructure topics to the council team. That's Ruth Kendall. Also, please welcome Randy Knox, candidate for Longview City Council Position 4. Randy is a current senior special agent for the Washington State Attorney General. He spent 35 years in law enforcement and is also a former deputy sheriff and criminal investigator. Randy says he's running to help save Longview.
Okay, thank you both for being here, and I guess something of an apology. You're probably going to hear questions that you've heard already tonight, but we tried to hit the important points. So let's talk about the Longview Police, their need for more police officers. There's a discussion about a public safety levy. And I'll start with Ms. Kendall. Do we need more police? How are we going to fund them if we do? Would you support such a levy?
Sure, thank you. Our council has supported police by providing resources to make more efficient use of our officers. We've prioritized the completion of the satellite police station at Archie Anderson Park. We approved the addition of behavioral health professionals who are embedded with our police. These BHU have been able to diffuse dangerous situations, freeing up police officers for other issues. We also approved moving police records management back under city control, and this has reduced the burden of reporting requirements on officers. As Longview grows, we will need more police officers. The local crime statistics reported in the annual police report were concerning. It will be difficult to add a significant number of officers with current city revenue sources. I support the public safety levy. I think we need to work with our police chief to understand department needs and how additional resources could best be utilized. We need to seek community engagement to understand the public support for this levy. We need to carefully select the levy timing to leverage additional resources like the COPS grant offered by the Department of Justice to get the most for any revenue levy that we collect. Longview Fire Department also requested a second ambulance and additional EMT personnel in order to improve emergency response coverage. The decision to fund these was deferred during the latest budget process with the understanding that a voter-approved EMS levy might be used to provide the revenue needed. The decision of when to pursue a public safety levy will need to be weighed alongside another levy, potential levy, EMS levy as well.
Thank you. And Mr. Knox?
Thank you. First of all, thanks for coming. Thank you for you folks for inviting us. So I might know a little bit about law enforcement. Done it a little bit. I've worked for agencies where the budget is tight, where there's furloughs, where everything happens. I have a problem when someone says they support law enforcement and then declined 6 positions at the last budget, but gave other departments 7 positions. I have a little problem with that. Where's your priority? Now they want to put a levy on the Parks District, but that's the priority over law enforcement? How many of you folks think or needed a police officer and it took forever to get there? It's happened. It's still going on. I'll tell you what I want to do. And my opponent will probably have an issue with this, but there's 1/10 of 1% sales tax.
Okay, everybody stop that now. And we would appreciate if you'd have a seat. Some people are more comfortable standing.
Oh,
than
for
sitting,
heaven's
but
sakes.
Keep it all on an even keel.
So anyway, there's a one.
Okay, anybody who can't behave like an adult for the next 30 minutes, please leave and keep comments to yourself. Okay, go ahead, sir.
There's a 1/10 of 1% sales tax that was initiated for the affordable housing and homeless, which I'm not sure how that's being applied. I'd use that. That's supposedly around $800,000. That sales tax was actually ran with the idea that supposedly the state had a bill that was going to offset a bunch of money where they were going to end up with like $8 million. That didn't happen. So let's use it where we can best use it. You know, homeless has an impact on law enforcement, and we need to bolster law enforcement. We get that taken care of, we can get some other things. You know, Longview is an attractive town. It could be a lot more attractive. But we need to do something about our problems, our crime rate, etc., if we want to bring business here. So that's my idea about the levy.
Is there anything you can respond to?
Sure, I just want to say the affordable housing levy, the sales tax levy that we did implement is restricted to affordable housing. It's not something that can be transferred to police. I think it is important. We do need to look at additional revenue sources, and I want to give an example that we're dependent on taxes for the city budget, and the state law restricts property tax increases to 1% per year. That translates to about $100,000 this past year. By contrast, just our cost of living increases for our city staff this year was about $1 million. It impacted the budget by about $1 million. So that the city budget is strapped, and I think a levy is the best way to go about getting additional officers.
And Mr. Knox?
Well, I don't believe that sales tax is a levy. I think it's a tax. And if it is a tax, the council can do whatever they want with it. They just change the resolution. So I don't know. I've never heard it as a levy. I mean, if that's the case, then it would be attached to our it wouldn't be a sales tax. It would be attached to our homes, our property. It's not. It's a sales tax. It can be revoked at any time. It can be adjusted or whatever you want to do with it. And until we get law enforcement in shape, we start taking care of the community, we keep problems at a minimum, we have a lot of other problems.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Mr. Knox, what are your priorities for the city budget? And what would be your innovative approaches for securing funding for these initiatives?
Well, we'll start at the last first. There's nothing innovative about saving money. You know, we need to look at the budget, we need to have possibly an outside source do an audit and look at it line by line, see where we've got any waste, where we have any issues, where we can trim it down before we start spending it or before we start taxing people for more money. I think that needs to be reviewed. And you can't continue to tax the citizens of Longview every time you turn around because you either have deferred maintenance, you have maintenance on your water system or your sewer system that hasn't been maintained. We have buildings, civic buildings that are in arrears of maintenance, and you know, there doesn't seem to be any big movement to take care of that. So let's trim the budget, take care of our two basic issues of public safety and infrastructure, and then move from there.
Thank you. Ms. Kendall.
Okay, during the budget process, staff department heads make budget enhancement requests. Council evaluates those enhancements and selects which enhancements to support. And when I'm going through that process, I consider the following criteria in selecting what to support. First one is safety. An example of this was a fire department request to purchase additional SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatus for the firefighters. We need to keep our people safe. Secondly, technology upgrades. These are needed for improved staff efficiency. An example of this was the new tracking system used by our legal team, which eliminated cumbersome paperwork. We can't expect our staff to be efficient if they're using 20-year-old computer systems. Next item is enhancements I look at enhancements that will save money over time. An example of this is the recent Amoresco study that provided data and prioritization for facility maintenance. And then lastly, I look at projects where we can leverage city dollars with outside funding. An example of this was the mobile library. The vast majority of the funding for this project will come from private donors with a small request from the city budget. Paying for budget priorities is challenging. Like I said before, we're limited on the property tax increases. Meanwhile, costs are escalating. The cost of outside services like criminal justice and animal control are increasing rapidly, and these factors necessitate us to consider looking at additional revenue sources like these special levies.
Thank you, Mr. Knox.
This is rebuttal, correct? Mm-hmm. You know, those are fine and dandy things. Do we need them? Yes, we do. We don't need a lot of other things that the city spent money on. And I'm all in favor of getting an outside grant that isn't from a state agency or the federal government, because there's always strings attached to those grants. They make you do things like put a bicycle lane in or other things. You know, I'd like to see a capital improvement grant where we basically all we have to do is repair roads and not worry about all the other add-ons. So, you know, again, those are fine and dandy. As far as I think she mentioned, or she will mention, body cams for law enforcement, another neat thing. However, I don't think that was an epiphany from anybody at City Council. There's a state law that requires you to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Kendall.
My opponent seems to think there's a lot of fat in the budget, and there isn't. The budget is pretty lean, and I don't think there aren't any services that we can eliminate. So I think that we really do need to look for extra resources.
Thank you.
So certainly one of the most publicized initiatives recently, and one of the more controversial, has been the Hope Village. Do you support Hope Village? Why or why not? And what else does the city need to do to address homelessness here? And we'll start with Mr. Ortiz. Last debate.
We have the same haircut.
Mr. Knox. Pardon me.
Same here.
Well, the question of do I support it or not support it? First issue is, as it exists now, I would not have approved it or voted for it when it came up to council. There's several reasons. One, the cost. It's a low barrier facility. Most importantly, public opinion was extremely against it. And that kind of takes us into the issue of this council needs to listen to its constituents, even if they think they're wrong. So would I support it when it was initially created? No. The problem is, though, is that we've spent anywhere from $2.4 to $3 million, depending on who you get that number from. And that's an investment that I don't think you can just shut down and stop. Not only that, but we shut it down. We put 50 more people on the streets. And you know what? We're not really taking care of that problem as well as we could be. So what we need to do is look at that contract. There should be, most contracts have a sever, which either one party or the other can sever it. We do need to start looking at another vendor, and we need to create a camp that has barriers. We have to have a camp that the occupants can do things for public service to help offset their cost. There's a myriad of things that we can do at that camp, and we may have to look at a different vendor. And I don't know why that's such a problem. I don't think there was very many vendors that bid on it, and I think that was too restrictive. We should actually put out the parameters of what we want, no barrier, et cetera, and put that barrier out for the request for funding, or for the proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Kendall.
Okay, I fully support Hope Village. Hope Village provides a path for wellness for chronically unsheltered members of our community for whom there had been no good options for help. Hope Village has successfully helped 41 people move into permanent housing this year with minimal impact to the surrounding neighborhood. The operations cost of Hope Village for the first year is expected to come in right around $800,000, and this has been covered by state grants. The cost to society for one homeless person is estimated to be $35,000 per year. For the 41 people who have found permanent housing this year, this translates to a saving of $1.4 million per year. Hope Village is a great step forward in our community's efforts to combat homelessness. We need more. I also support our community outreach coordinator and our behavioral health units who interact with unsheltered individuals on a daily basis. They connect them with resources where they can, and they also partner with law enforcement to ensure compliance with city ordinances. Looking at the longer term, we desperately need more housing, especially affordable housing. I support initiatives to increase housing density in our community. I also support the numerous service providers within our community who do amazing work. We have a huge opportunity to encourage better cooperation and synergy amongst these groups rather than competition for resources. I have seen this cooperation happen. Last week, I was at a meeting where Cowlitz Legal Aid offered a service to help Campus Towers. Another time, one group was able to offer transportation for an organization for whom this was the biggest barrier.
Thank you. Mr. Knox, anything you want to respond to?
Well, 44 people housed. I think I've seen numbers actually published by the Salvation Army that's something like 60. But let's look at that 44 for the sake of argument. So 44 is almost 50. So you would look at that statistic and say, geez, we're almost 80% of our people have been housed. That doesn't take into consideration the 99 that have been expelled. That drops your ratio way down. And I don't know if my opponent's going to mention that the camp exists pursuant to a Longview Municipal Code because it's considered credit anyway. You get old, you forget your words. Anyway, it's got to shut down in 40 days. It's only allowed to be in existence 365 days. I've asked the council what their plan is after 365 days, and it's crickets. So, something to consider.
Ms. Kendall.
I'm good.
Okay.
We'll start with Ms. Kendall. On the Longview City Council, what are 3 things that you see the council doing well and right, and what are 3 things that you would suggest as improvements?
I think we have a council that works very well together. We listen to each other. Everybody contributes. We all ask questions. We're all engaged. And I think that's a real attribute. We also have a very diverse group of folks on council with different backgrounds, different strengths. So I think that's a positive thing. I think we have great workshops. This past year, we had an issue came up where we had to approve the judges for the district. We had a lot of council questions, and that led to a workshop on the whole local criminal justice system, which was just amazing to me. And to me, that was my favorite workshop of the year. A lot of good information, and so I think that we've had some really good exchanges through those workshops. What was my third one I had?
You want one?
No.
I was willing to share.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Art.
The art, public art? Yeah, public. But that's not really a council attribute. Yep, I had a third one, but I can't find it on my phone right off. As far as things that we can do better,
Yes.
I think communications is a constant challenge, and it's communications with the public in particular. We had, in years past, the Daily News had much more in-depth reporting, much more higher circulation. That isn't the case now, and so we need to look for alternative ways to communicate. Our citizens deserve to have the actual facts and not rumors and misinformation. Another issue that we have is the things that I think we could do better. I'd like to see more workshops similar to the one we had on Parks and Rec this year, where we had roundtable discussions with small groups of people.
Thank you. Mr. Knox.
Are we starting with what could be done better, or what's good, or either one?
Either way.
Either way. Well, I'm going to steal back my one about what could be done better. Yeah, it's not really a council function, but you accept them on behalf of the city. So, theoretically, you could not decide not to. So that's one thing. The city removed the outside dining ordinance that they were trying to implement that was going to cost restaurants a pretty good sum of money. And I'm going to look at my note because you looked at your phone. Body cameras. Again, it's kind of state law mandated, but that was something that was moving in the right direction. What needs to be done better? You know as well as I do. Almost every council meeting I talk about transparency. There isn't a lot. I find it interesting that the 3 incumbents now in all their campaign literature, they talk about transparency. What else needs to be done is they need to listen. They need to listen to their constituents. I mean, when you've got 200 to 300 to 400 people, whatever the number was, coming in talking about the village, not wanting it, and they got it anyway. I think that's, when you've got that kind of numbers, that's substantial. And lastly, listen, but follow through. Communicate with your constituents. Let them know that you hear them. When you go up there and you don't get any response whatsoever, you kind of get the impression that it fell on deaf ears. So that's the last one that needs to be done.
Thank you, Ms. Kendall. Response?
Okay, I just added my last one. My last thing of what well done, because I found it on my phone, is I feel like we have had situations. I think we do listen to constituents, and an example of that I wanted to share was demonstrated when they had the workshop about a year ago with some of the youth sports groups talking about the softball's request to put a fence around their field, and we had them all at the table. We listened, and we supported that request. I think that in response to my opponent's comments about the big meetings where we had the rooms filled, I think we have to be careful to not listen to only the people that are shouting the loudest. We have, the people in the room that are shouting the loudest at us do not necessarily represent the entire community. And we have to listen to the whole community. And that goes beyond the meeting.
Response, Mr. Knox.
Well, first of all, when someone tells you to sit down, is that the loudest voice in the room or just a minor voice? I'm basically what you're talking about, where you did listen to the loudest voice isn't necessarily the right voice. You know, city government, county government, state government, federal government, it gets its power to govern from you folks. It's not the other way around. It's not top down, it's you folks dictating what you want. That's why we're a republic. We vote for our representatives who then in turn represent us. So I don't care if it's the loudest, if someone doesn't think it's the loudest voice. When it's the loudest voice and it's the most voices, I think we got to notice that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to try something just a little bit different here. I'm going to give each of you the opportunity to ask the other one question. And I think how we'll do it is you got 1 minute to phrase your question, 2 minutes to respond, and then we'll go the other way around. And so, Mr. Knox, I'll put you on the spot first and let you ask your question to Ms. Kendall.
I would like to know when the issue about how that money came from the state, and we know now it was Senator Rivers or Assistant City Manager Rivers, why was there such a pushback from your council members? In fact, there was even a temper tantrum over someone asking that question. Why was there such a problem? Why was it such a big secret where that money came from?
Don't know that it was ever kept a secret. The process that the state Senate uses to distribute money. Our Senator Rivers was on a committee that distributed it to multiple communities, and it was a surprise to us when that showed up in the budget, and unfortunately it disappeared.
All right, and Ms. Kendall, a question for Mr. Knox.
I'd like to know if we're not gonna, if you feel like Hope Village needs to be strictly low barrier and restricted who can enter that, what are we going to do about the folks that don't meet the criteria?
What are you doing about them now? They're around the streets. They're in Civic Circle. You know, that's the problem. You know, you just had a new city attorney come out with a new edict that now you could enforce some of the issues that the Boise Act brought about. Well, my first thought there, and I'll get to your question, the first thought there is if you had a prior city manager that wasn't providing you with ample information about how you could enforce that, you know, other cities do it. Your association that you belong to, the City of Washington Associations, I'm sure they have feedback and information on that. And so why do you have an attorney that's, in essence, giving you erroneous information? Why was that person still employed until they retired? So one is that we need to have, I mean, I believe in law and order. I mean, we don't have law and order in all aspects of our community, and we need it. So if we can't house these people, I mean, your Muni Code requires them to be background checked. I don't think that happened. Your Muni Code requires a lot of things that hasn't occurred, and, you know, it just falls on a deaf ear. So, you know what? If you have to unhouse, I'm using you guys' term, unhouse someone from the village, and they fall into a category where law enforcement can take action on them, I suggest that happen.
Thanks, sir.
All right, last question of the evening. We will start with Mr. Knox. How can we work better on civility in politics work better together, and stop the political mudslinging? And this is a question from our community member who chose to remain anonymous.
Huh. Well, you know what? Government isn't necessarily supposed to be civil in the sense of everybody, you got 7 council members and all 7 got to fall in line and rubber stamp the yes vote. That's not what it's about. It's about conversation. It's about who has a better idea. It's about who can sell that information better. And you know what? Sometimes that gets a little bit in the weeds. So just to arbitrarily say, oh, we ought to be civil, well, yeah, we shouldn't be in there punching each other out. We shouldn't be yelling and screaming at each other. But my gosh, we should hear both sides of the story and make a conscientious decision on what that happens. As far as mudslinging, I know my opponent has not slung any mud at me, and I don't think she can say I have her. Some of our minions, I think, from both sides have made some comments that are a little bit questionable. You've got another candidate that is just getting harpooned by the opposition with basically totally false information. You know what? If someone was doing that about my opponent, I would publicly disavow it. Haven't heard anything yet. So, you know what? It's not always about everybody getting along. It's about everybody doing their job and coming up with the proper answer.
Ms. Kendall.
Yeah, I think the best way forward is to listen and try to understand the other person's point of view. And I'm just going to give a little example of a minor issue that we brought up on council this year. I brought forward a proposal to have a dog leash law, and it met with some resistance from some of the other council members and with some of my constituents. And we had discussions about it, trying to understand what the issues were, and then we ended up we took some time with it, and I brought this forward in response to some constituents that brought it forward to me as a concern to them. And then we had a special workshop on trying to add some additional unleashed dog areas and dog parks. And then we also had some questions about the Humane Society and what were they doing for enforcement. And we had the new director of the Humane Society come in and give us a presentation. And we worked through all those issues, and we ended up passing it unanimously.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your very robust and important input. And that bring Josh up.
Josh is coming up behind you. Round of applause for the candidates, please. All right, and before you go, I'd also like to thank our moderators one more time. Round of applause for them, please. Also, thank you to our timekeepers, Mr. J. Bush and Mr. Magnuson. You guys did a fantastic job. Thank you to our sound guy, Joe, Katie up in the video booth, Pepper on sound. And remember, you can join us again either in person next week or on our live stream. We have a big debate for you next week. It is Wallen, LaFave, Lieber, Young, Hillbun, and Olson Anderson. So you don't want to miss that, so we can all be as informed as possible. Again, I'm Josh Carter from Carter Venture Solutions. Thanks for coming. We'll see you.